Buenos dias, artists! Today, for Hispanic Heritage Month, we are going to create calaveras, also known as sugar skulls, which is a symbol of the Mexican holiday Dia de los Muertos, also known as Day of the Dead. Dia de los Muertos is a holiday in the beginning of November that family and friends gather to celebrate loved ones who are no longer with us. So the sugar skull is one of the symbols of that holiday. And let's begin. First, you're going to have your paper the tall way, up and down like this. And we're going to mark out where our skull is going to be. You don't want it to be like teeny tiny, but you don't also don't want it to be going off the page. So we're going to make some lines and marks to distinguish where that skull is going to be. First one is going to be in the middle, about 2 inches down. So about this far down, I'll make one dot. That will be the top of my skull's head. Next, I'm going to do that on the bottom, about 2 inches, 1.5 inches from the bottom, and make a dot. It doesn't have to be perfect. Next up, I'm going to do 2 dots on each side of the middle. So the middle is about here. I'm going to come about 1.5 inches or 2 inches in, make a dot, and then same on this side. Next, to make the head, that round oval shape, we're going to connect all of these dots together. I'm going to go really, really slowly, and I want you to go slowly too, to make sure your head doesn't end up too pointy or lumpy. So I'm thinking curved line like a rainbow. Curved line like a rainbow. I'll go back later too and make these lines more dark and bold. Okay, next up, we're gonna do the bottom half of the face. And when you look at a skull, their cheekbones, these bones that are right here, are usually kind of angular. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a curved line like this. And then the skull is gonna be down at the chin here. When you are doing this, you're using pencil instead of crayon, because I want you to be able to erase, unlike me, and you cannot erase crayon. So you're starting in pencil, but I'm doing crayon because it's easier to see. Okay, so that's the outline of my skeleton. If I had an eraser, I might make some changes, but that's okay. We're gonna go with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So when we are making the eyes are gonna go about like halfway through the face. So I'll do 2 dots of where the pupils will be. And then nose will be about here. And then I'll make a little line for the smile. Now, of course, I'm gonna add more details, but this is a good start. One of the symbols of Dia de los Muertos is flowers, specifically a flower called the marigold, which is a usually golden or reddish orange flower that is said to guide spirits. So we definitely want to decorate this with some flowers, maybe some vines. You could also add decorations like diamonds or hearts or something made up, maybe crowns. It's up to you. Ooh, maybe spider webs too. That could be a good idea. So I'm going to go ahead and start to draw and decorate my skull. I'm going to start with the eyes. I'm going to have my eyes be flowers. And I have a white crayon too, because as you know, if you do watercolor over white crayon, it will show up. So I'm going to add some details in white so that part stays white when I do my watercolor. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're like, are you crazy, Mrs. Becker? What are you talking about? You will see once I start to paint. Again, you want to be doing your details in pencil. and then going over it with crayon. So you can add whatever designs that you want in your art, or you could also do what I'm doing. It's up to you. So those are good for the eyes for now. Next, I'm going to move on to the nose and mouth. So on skulls, the nose doesn't look like a normal living human nose. It's kind of an empty space. And the shape looks like this. You're going to start with a dot at the top, and then 2 lines that come down like this, 2 curves, and it goes like that. If you want to do something a little easier, you could always just have your nose be a diamond shape like that. That would work too. Next comes the teeth. We're going to add some teeth on the mouth of our skeleton, and they're just going to be curved lines like that. They look like tall rainbows on both sides for both rows of teeth. So now I'm going to pause the video. We're going to speed things up and do some decorating. Next, I'm going to show you how to draw a couple marigolds to go in the background of your skull. So for the marigolds, they're going to be pretty simple. I'm going to start with a circle for the center of the flower. Around that circle, I'm just going to do wavy lines. And then I'll do one more layer around it. Wavy lines to go around. It can go off the page too. One marigold, then I'm going to do a flower coming off the a leaf coming off the marigold. So I have one line coming off of the flower, and then I do a leaf shape around it with a couple of stems coming from the leaf. Another leaf, curved line, it meets at the tip. One marigold, and you can add a couple on your piece. I'll do that one more time for you guys, and then we'll skip to painting. I'm going to do a marigold that's coming up from behind my skull. So I do part of a circle, squiggly lines around it, and then a bigger squiggly line behind that. That's a big marigold. Leaf. And another leaf. You can practice those on a piece of scratch paper too if you need to. All right, and now that my outline is done, it is time to paint. For our paints today, we are using watercolor tempera paints. Obviously these paints are dry, so we need to add water to them to moisten them up. When you're using water, remember, the less water you use, the darker your color is going to be. The more water you use, the more watered down and light your color is going to be. You're going to want to have 2 brushes, a bigger brush for those bigger spaces with less detail, and a small brush to get the smaller areas with more detail. So small brush for small details, big brush for big spaces. You could also grab a paper plate to do some mixing on. Say you wanted like a light orange color. I could take my paintbrush, get some white on my paintbrush, put the white on the paper plate, and then if I want to add orange to that, I could add orange and mix that lighter orange color. Maybe I want to add some yellow to that orange to make a yellow-orange color. You could then add yellow to that orange to get the shade that you want. So, paper plate, 2 paintbrushes, paints, a water dish, and maybe some paper towel, and you will be good to go. I'm going to put this on super speedy mode so you can see how it looks at the end. One thing to remember while you're painting is to go really slowly, especially when you have all these fine details in your art. You want to go really, really slow. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to go out of the lines, especially with paint that's really watery from watercolor. But make sure you're going slow. Like when I'm going around these details in the eyes, look how slowly and carefully I'm going to try not to go out of the lines. And when I'm using the very tip of my paintbrush to get into those little areas of detail. So go really, really slow and carefully. Another thing to remember is that if I look at my painting once this is dry and I decide that I want this blue to be darker, I can always go back over the areas that are drying to get that darker blue color if that's how I want my art to look. So remember, you can go back and do more layers for darker. You could even try techniques where you're blending colors together. Like maybe in this area, I am starting with blue. Maybe I want to add like a different blue in there to kind of create that blended tie-dye look. So that's something that you could try too. Like that looks kind of cool. So you can experiment with different things. If you don't like how something looks, you could always take a paper towel and blot. So blotting is when you're just kind of dabbing like this. So dab away the color. If you wipe it away, a lot of times your paper is going to tear. So make sure that you're dabbing and not wiping if you make a mistake.